Senator Marco Rubio. So demands, drugs, destruction. That's even death, Senator. That's what these Biden border crossers are bringing into the country.
Well, it's an example of why it's never a good idea to allow 9 to 10 million people to come into your country illegally. Let's say 90%, 95% of the people are not here to commit crimes or whatever. That's still 5% of 9 million is a lot of people. And it's important to understand, the Venezuelans that have been here, they've been telling me for a year and a half that this criminal element is coming over, and I had no way to quantify it. Now we see it. Now they were absolutely right. The truth of the matter is these people were criminals in Venezuela. They're criminals here now. This idea that they're being vetted at the border is a joke. The Venezuelan authorities aren't providing us documentation. Some of these people are part of a gang that's been terrorizing Chile, Peru, Ecuador. I mean, they've been working their way through Central America and towards the United States. And it's not just from there. And I want to add one more piece of it. We have a lot of people that have come from Central Asia, places we have no background information on whatsoever, a place that we know ISIS is running, and ISIS-linked groups have been running a trafficking group, but where they're in the business of moving migrants into the U.S. Why would we not think that they would use that exact same business of moving migrants to move terrorists? So I think we have to assume as well, and I think it's built on a lot of common sense, that in addition to criminals, there are people in this country who have links to terrorism and have the intent of committing terrorist acts at some point in the future. It's an incredibly dangerous situation that Biden and Kamala Harris and this administration have allowed to happen over the last 3.5 years. But
they're floating an executive order, Senator. Perhaps you didn't see this, that will supposedly, after saying he didn't have any power to do so, supposedly crack down on the asylum scam. So will voters look at that and say, yeah, better late than never? Good on them.
I don't think so, because they spent 3 years telling us there wasn't a border crisis. I mean, they repeatedly denied that there was even a border crisis to begin with. Then they claim they don't have the power. They have the power to reverse all of the executive decisions, almost 100 executive decisions that Joe Biden took when he took office in the first month. Oh, close to 100. All of them were reversing Trump policies. He campaigned on it. He campaigned on a message that he was going to be more welcoming. And as a result, more people came. This is entirely incentive-based. If people think it will be easier to get here and easier to stay, they will come. If they don't, they won't. Joe Biden was elected on the promise of making it easier to come illegally and easier to stay if you do. And the result is we've seen close to 10 million people now cross the border of the United States illegally in just 3 years, in just 3.5 years.
Senator, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important. How important is it for Republicans to win control of the Senate just on this issue alone?
It's extraordinarily important because, number one, all of those nominations that go through the Senate, I mean, some of the people, Mayorkas and others that are in charge, they're complicit in this act. That's number one. I think number two, it gives us the leverage over the administration. Now, it would be great to have both the House and the Senate, but right now we don't have the Senate, and it limits our ability to do things. We can't even call hearings to investigate this because, obviously Democrat chairs are not going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious.
Well, I mean,
what's happening.
I think it'd be great
to stop all funding of the administration until we get control of our country. I mean, we got to stop funding
I think
their
it would be
pet
great
projects.
to subpoena. I think it would be great to subpoena some of the internal communications and have those produced so we can actually see how there was collusion involved in making this happen. They knew what they are doing. This is by design.
They think they have millions of new Democrat voters, clearly. Senator, great to see you. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Indefinite war in pursuit of an unidentified notion of total victory will not bring Israel and will only bog down Israel and Gaza.
Well, the Wilmington Wonder, once again, inspiring confidence coast to coast. Well, maybe not. But for good reason, Democrats are petrified. And no matter what they do to Trump, he seems to just get stronger and stronger. So the only option left is take him off the ballot completely. That's what the socialists in Washington state are trying to do on grounds that he's a convicted felon. Seattle attorney David Vogel told the Seattle Times, I have clients lined up who are going to be all over pursuing a ballot challenge in this case. Joining us now is RNC co-chair Laura Trump. Laura, what's your plan to beat back this and other such efforts?
Well, I mean, I think you're right, Laura. The assessment that everything they're trying to do to Donald Trump is basically backfiring on them and only making him stronger, only galvanizing support behind him is spot on, and that's exactly what we've seen. But this law in particular that they're attempting to use here seems to only apply to local and state elections. Of course, we know when it comes to Donald Trump, whether or not a law actually legally applies really doesn't matter to the Democrats. Just ask Alvin Bragg and Letitia James. They'll tell you all you need to know about that. But they've already tried this tactic in states like Colorado, where they attempted to use a similar law. And the Supreme Court said unanimously, you can't do it. These are completely undemocratic measures that they are attempting to use. I suspect, though, they are in full panic mode because they have an incumbent president who is attempting to run again with a 36% approval rating. We have never seen someone reelected, Laura, with an approval rating that low. And just last month, we had a poll out of Washington State that Donald Trump was actually up 1 point, if you can believe it, on Joe Biden in deep blue Washington State. So yeah, you guys can try out there all of these tactics that you want. They will be struck down. They will be slapped down. Donald Trump will be our nominee for the Republican Party. And any attempt like this will continue to galvanize more support behind him.
Well, the stories we were seeing, things are really getting close in Virginia, which of course has been a tough state for Republicans. In New York State, within 7 points. Now, it's usually double-digit blowout for the Democrats. This is what you guys are doing with the minority vote and outreach really is working. It's driving them nuts and forcing them to spend a lot of money. When can we expect you all, especially with your huge fundraising haul that you just got in May, I think $141 million, crazy amount of money. When will you go to Chicago? And can we expect you in Denver and LA?
We will be in Chicago. We will be in Detroit. We will be in Atlanta. We will be in Philly. We are going to do exactly what Donald Trump is the best at, which is be his authentic self and actually reach out to people. And quite frankly, Laura, it's kind of astonishing that prior to Donald Trump, you really haven't seen Republicans go in these areas except back to like Reagan. And think about what happened with that. You saw New York flip and turn red under Ronald Reagan. And so we are going to continue to do this. And I think it is really the authenticity that Donald Trump brings alongside of the fact that people can actually remember back to when he was president and how different their life was. So we're going to continue to do this. Donald Trump will continue to show up everywhere. And I think the Democrats are going to realize very quickly, if they haven't already, that keeping Donald Trump stuck in New York was maybe the worst thing they possibly could have done, because it has shown that when he reaches out, people respond, and he is going to get a massive, massive vote from people all across this country on November 5th.
Laura, thank you so much. Good to see you tonight, as always.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
You need to watch this if you struggle with feeling heard. What's something people don't know about unlocking their desires? It's simpler than you think. Picture this. New York, rush hour, everybody's hustling, but sometimes you just gotta stop and ask for what you want. Jesus laid it out pretty clear. Ask and it's yours. Seek and you'll find. Knock and that door's gonna swing wide open. Now, I ain't talking about whispering into the wind here. I'm talking about the kind of asking with conviction, the kind of seeking like it's Black Friday at Macy's, and the kind of knocking that says, hey, I mean business. So what's the real secret? It's all about taking action with a capital A. You gotta be bold, you gotta be persistent, and most importantly, you gotta believe it's already yours. That's not just spirituality, that's street smart wisdom right there. So next time you're aiming for something, remember, just ask, seek, knock. And hey, don't just stand there, go get what you want.